Hey there, welcome to another episode of the Playing in the Sandbox podcast, where we are deeply committed to inspiring action in today's leaders. I want you to get ready to kick off your shoes and step into the sandbox, dig your toes in as we dive into another conversation, a part 2 conversation with Chris Warrens, also known as CW. And today we're going to be talking all about your sleep habits and your sleep patterns as a leader. For high-performing leaders, this is an episode you're not going to want to miss. And I want you to head on over to tammyjbond.com/podcast and click on today's episode to download your copy of the action plan, because he gave some great resources. I want to make sure you also have in the action plan books and things that you can get a hold of to help you with your own sleep patterns. All right, let's get ready to talk with CW today, all about sleep and why it matters and why leaders need it. All right, CW, I am so excited to have you back in the sandbox today with me. Thrilled that we're going to be having this part 2 of our conversation, a follow-up to our conversation that we had a while ago about this time, though, something that I think people are probably going to find to be, I don't know, they're going to hopefully be curious about it, but I think they're probably going to be pondering, why are you talking about leadership and sleep, Tam? Like, why would you bring that conversation forward? And I know when you and I met the first time, I've heard you talk multiple times, and we've had dialogue since that meeting about the value of just health and well-being and sleep for you. And that, as a leader, is such an, I think it's such a really great topic and something we don't talk enough about. I see things out there. There's important studies that are happening, but I don't think that high-level, high-performing leaders are paying any attention to them by and large. I don't know how you would believe with that, like how you
Well,
feel
I would
about that.
agree. I
Yeah.
would 100% agree.
Right. And it's impacting their ability to perform, and they don't even realize it yet. So I want to bring
Mhm.
some insight to that. But before we get into your studying on the topic of sleep and health and well-being for you, I want to actually back up and talk a little bit what we also didn't cover in part 1, our first episode. We didn't really cover as much about you, diving into you, the man, the warrior, right? The combat veteran and Purple Heart recipient. And I want you to tell our listeners about your journey and tell us what got you to this place in your life. But I want the whole picture.
Yeah. First things first, Tammy. Thank you for having me back in the sandbox. It's always a pleasure, as you know, and I finally figured out how to use Riverside, so we're good to go. The key is I didn't do it. I had the team handle it. I'm like, guys, just please help. I don't know what I'm doing. And
That's good
you know,
leadership. That's a sign of good leadership right there. I know when to
I,
ask for help.
I was just gonna say, like, most high performing leaders know how to ask for help, but elementary leaders don't. And I've given up on things that I'm not good at. I'm just like, guys, I need help. Like, don't even. Let's not frustrate me. Let's not frustrate you. Let's just knock this out. Let's get it done. But yeah, it was quite an interesting journey. You know, I didn't realize that I had failed high school until a couple of years ago. My guidance counselor reached out to have me shoot a video for uh, the teacher that failed me my senior year, and held me accountable for not doing my work. He was dying of pancreatic cancer, and my guidance counselor reached out to me and said, "Will you send a video to so and so? He's dying of pancreatic cancer, and you're the biggest success story to come through here." I was like, "Yeah, I'll shoot the video. What do you mean I failed high school?" They knew I was going into the army after the high school, and like, I always knew that I was going to be a soldier of some degree, and you know, uh, I wanted to straighten myself out, is what it came down to. Growing up with my father dying in front of me as a child, it wasn't good. I was in a terrible environment. We were very full of struggles financially, emotionally, and I became angry, became very angry. So I thought the military would straighten me out, and for the most part, it did. On my first tour in Iraq, 2005, I got to Baghdad, the capital. There was a few months in particular that were extraordinarily tough. And I was just doing my job. It was really what it came down to. But one day in particular, I ended up receiving the Purple Heart for wounds in combat. Uh, we were looking for two soldiers that had been kidnapped that we knew. Uh, you don't really hear of that, like soldiers being kidnapped anymore.
Mm-mm.
So we were looking for them, and we found them. Uh,
Mm.
one of the bombs buried in the road to kill whoever was coming to find their castrated, decapitated, and delimbed, burnt bodies. I hit one of those bombs. But I'm a tough bastard, is really what it comes down to. And we're here.
And we're here.
That was just the closest that I came to death, that tour. There were some pretty close ones. Just didn't get the Purple Heart for them. Was put in for the Bronze Star with Valor. Same tour about a month later, which is one step below the Congressional Medal of Honor.
Wow.
That was a pretty crazy day.
I bet.
About a month after that, lost my friend. He gave me the night off. The truck that went out was hit by a bomb, which I was supposed to be in. And he died that night, Carlton Clark, along with Seal, and Samora. So I've named my nonprofit after Clark. So long story short, I really shouldn't be here. Really shouldn't, or should I? Depending on how you look at it. And I've decided that I should, and
Yes.
and understand that I was left back for a reason. So the military and the Purple Heart was 20 to 21 years old. I went back for a second tour, a little bit different that time, but long story short, I'm a combat guy. I'm a team guy. I'm a combat guy. It's what I do. When I was there, I thought I was meant for combat. I thought that's what my purpose was because I was very good at it. And there was no real training. You don't get trained for combat. You just either live or you don't. And I said,
And you
I'm going to
almost
live.
didn't. Yeah. And you almost didn't. And I do
So,
believe there is a reason always and a purpose. And what I
mhm.
love about that, and thank you for your service and thank you for what you left behind and what you gave up and
Mhm.
what you fought for. I appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Um, but what I also believe is that's part of what made you into this, who, not only just who you are now, but what you and why you do things the way you do in the world today to make the impact that you do. If you didn't have that experience, you wouldn't be doing, the likelihood is you wouldn't be who you are doing what you're doing now because of that.
Correct.
It made you into something that you're using for good, and instead of allowing to be a victim of, or allowing it to drive a story that's not.
And
uh,
it did.
yeah, for a while, I
I
bet.
did. I did play victim for a while. I didn't even know it. So
Yeah.
I don't mean to cut you off. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that it did for 10 years after.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet. How could it not? And just all of what we know about our vets and what they go through in recovery, and the need for that. And I've had the gift and the blessing of working with soldiers and helping
And your
them get
husband's
ready
a
to
vet, right?
transition out of the military into private sector. And it's a thing. It's a journey. And then there's the wounds we don't see,
Yeah.
it's no different than somebody who has a disability, a mental health disability. You can't see it, but
Yep.
it's there and it impacts
Yep.
their every single day. And
Yep.
we as a world have a lot to learn on how to navigate that, for
Mm-hmm.
sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But, fortunately, people like you are bringing it to light and understand it. And I believe your husband was a veteran as well. So
Yes,
you're quite familiar. He was in for a while, if I recall.
he was. Yep.
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 30 years?
No, no. He just shy of 20, and unfortunately had to get
20.
out. So,
Two
um,
decades.
well, the choice that was given him was to get out, because if you want to be a single dad and raise your kids, or let them go back to an addict in the bomb. This is your choice, no active duty. So yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was a big deal. That's a whole nother story for another time. I probably shouldn't put that out there on the airwaves. But yes, he did serve. So let's talk about what brought you to this place of health for you that is so
Yep.
critical and crucial around your structure and your sleep habits.
Yeah.
I know that you've had gyms, and I know that you've done the
Yep.
personal training, and I know that you
Mhm.
have helped people on their journey with what that is for them and their body and all the things that they need. But you got to a place for you that you did some research on a topic we don't talk enough about, and that's the value of sleep for you
Mhm.
to keep you high performing. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So I'm gonna be a little brash here, and I think it's needed for all leaders listening. Okay. I won't be vulgar, but I will be brash, and I'll say it like this: You cannot outwork me. No one can outwork me, and I know a lot of people. It just won't happen. And I'm not talking about a lot of work. I'm talking about quality for extended periods of time. For anyone that might be new to the subject, just can't be done. And I've been around billionaires. You will not outwork me as long as I can sleep.
As long as you can sleep.
Once my once my sleep starts getting hindered, my vulnerabilities show, the chinks in the armor.
Mm.
I actually, and I'm going to give you the brash day of my career. Just prior to that, delivering that story, meaning it was yesterday. I was speaking to someone on my team, and they were like, "Chris, you haven't stopped in like 3 years." I said, "No, I went to Europe last year for like 2.5 weeks," and they're like, "You haven't stopped," and I said, "Yeah, I know." They're like, "You haven't stopped this year, let alone the past few," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I'm sleeping, so we're good. I can do 14, 16-hour days if needed." Uh, but it was not that way. I'm in year 15 now. I've learned in my early 30s, after a better part of a decade working my face off and building then two companies, one of them being a full service gym. I was 31, I believe, maybe 32, like 2016, 2017 timeframe. I would land myself in the hospital.
Mhm.
I'm in I'm in elite shape, and I have been for a decade and a half. I showed up to the hospital yesterday on my birthday to get checked out. They're like, "You're perfect. Vitals, everything." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." They're like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, I sleep and I exercise and I eat correctly." But that's not the point. The point is, it wasn't that way. Coming out of the military, I had the work ethic, I had the desire, but I also had the bad sleep habits. So after 10 years of doing that and building companies, I'm 31, 32 years old in elite level shape in the hospital. Doctors telling me, if you don't start sleeping, you're going to die young.
Wow.
Ah, well, looks like I'm going to have to learn to sleep.
It's a game changer right there, isn't it?
So yeah. So it happened twice
Mm.
in the period of like 2 months. I was like, all right, we got to figure this out. So I started doing research, and I started understanding the concepts of sleep. And I stumbled on this guy. His name's Shawn Stevenson. He's this black dude. He has a huge podcast, huge. Has been on all the major podcasts at the top of the ring. And he wrote a book called Sleep Smarter. And I related to him because he's a fitness guy and a scientist, or former scientist. And I was like, all right, I'm going to read this guy's book. Oh my goodness. It was beauty. It was awesome. Like, just explained everything. And I started implementing all of
Good.
it.
All right.
Started sleeping 8 hours a night. I mean, it went from like 4 to 6, to 7 to 8. Now, if you don't wake me up, I'll sleep 10 hours.
Okay,
But
so what's the name of the book and who is this?
Shawn Stevenson, Sleep Smarter.
Sleep Smarter by Shawn Stevenson. Love it.
Mhm.
Okay, good.
Yep.
It's got to go on the
Yep.
after action plan.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And um, now it's pretty regular for me to sleep 9, 10 hours. But the 9 or 10 hours I put in while I'm awake, you can't touch me. I
Wow.
move faster than anybody. I'll outwork anybody, and the quality of the work is superb. So it all comes down to what you want to do. Do you want to put 3, 4 hours into sleep and do half-assed work while you're awake for 18 hours? Or do you want to sleep and do quality work?
Good.
For me, I want to perform
Yeah.
in the gym, for my team, my customers, my clients. If I didn't sleep, I had two clients today. Two clients today. I've talked to probably 6 or 7 clients today. Quick phone calls, and two of them are just not good at business, to say the least. And if one of them's, oh, I need to go ask my wife, dude. No, you don't need to ask your wife. You need to make a decision, is what you need to do. But we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is, if I wasn't sleeping and I had to deal with these people, I probably would have been less tactful. But I stayed super calm, super tactful, super understanding, even though they're being terrible business owners. It's like, no wonder you can't break $1 million a year. You have to ask your wife everything. But what do I know? Anyways, uh,
I mean,
listen,
if
there's
she's a
nothing
partner
wrong
in
with.
the if she's a partner in the business, I can see running
She's
it
not.
by, but I better be
She's
clear
not.
on my decision to say I'm running this
Right.
by to get confirmation of. There's a difference. There's a difference.
And it, yes, not a partner in the business, but
Yeah.
you're absolutely right. And there's nothing wrong with asking your partner something if that's the dynamic. But I feel very strongly that men should be the leaders in a traditional relationship. But
Agree.
we're not going to go down that rat hole unless you want me to.
I mean,
Um,
brother, I'm all in on that one because I am in agreement with you.
Jesus Christ. These dudes, we're in this like byproduct of feminine movement, and I'm a feminist. Like, women are more powerful than men in every way other than physicality. Way more resilient, way tougher, way stronger. Like, I will say it till I'm blue in the face. The only thing women are not stronger on is physical. That's it. You know what I mean? And I believe my highest paid employee has traditionally always been women. Like, like they deserve it because they work their tushes off. But anyways, uh, if I wasn't sleeping, I wouldn't be able to conduct business as a professional,
Right.
as someone that knows how to work with people. So, anyways, what it comes down to is, it had to be taken away from me.
Mm.
I had to be looked at in the face and say, Chris, you are going to die young if you don't start sleeping. And
Yeah.
I had to rehaul my entire process, my entire day, everything.
Mhm.
And looking back on that day of Chris at 31 and today, which is 7 years later, I wouldn't have hired Chris at 31. I wouldn't have followed Chris at 31. I wouldn't have listened to Chris at 31. And I definitely wouldn't have used the habits of Chris at 31.
So, what led Chris at 31, other than the doctor saying, dude, you need to make this change or else? What really got your attention around the need for the change? Or was that it?
No, I mean, that was enough, but I I really enjoy leadership, and I felt like I was failing my team,
Mm-hmm.
which fundamentally I was.
Yeah. If you can't lead
And
yourself well, how are you going to lead other
no,
people?
yeah, exactly. And they depended on me for everything. So like, I hadn't trained them to be leaders yet. So the long and short of it was I felt like I was failing people in my life.
Yeah.
And if you fast forward to today, or recently when I had that conversation with someone on my team and they're like, "Hey, you haven't stopped," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm sleeping, so we're good. We're good.
Okay. The
If I'm
other will
not
fall
sleeping, we're
in
not."
line. Sorry, go
Yeah.
ahead. What was that?
No, it's fine. I was just saying, if we're not sleeping, we're not good.
Yeah. And the other will fall in line as it needs to. But for you, what I hear is the importance is your body, you know what your needs are, and when you're at your best self, right? And sleep is
Correct.
the requirement of that. And you are, I know, a man of who is rigid with that routine for you. And I want it, but before we get into that and kind of the how, and you did your research and you came up with your own strategies that you implemented, right? On
Hmm.
but before we get to that, I want to talk about for leaders that are listening to this going, yeah, my doctor said I should get some sleep too, right?
Hmm.
What might they be seeing in their daily day-to-day activities that is an indicator of dude, or lady, right?
Yeah.
You better consider some sleep here because otherwise here's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Sure. Definitely. I think most prominent is unfortunately, the obesity rate in America. I mean,
Hmm.
every other country pretty much goes to like airports and ports and watches fat Americans for fun.
Wow.
It's pathetic. And people don't realize that if you're not sleeping, you're not going to lose weight. You're not going to gain weight if you're trying to gain weight.
Hmm.
Uh, when you hit your REM cycles, rapid eye movement cycles, which I believe you need about 2.5 to 3 hours a night, and they're in intervals, like every 90 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, you secrete human growth hormone. Human growth hormone is what keeps you young, healthy, losing weight, gaining weight, repairs your body, your mind, your heart, everything. So the first things first is being overweight. I was teaching in my mastermind recently uh, some things that they need to do to get ready for whatever is coming, and the first thing was fitness, your health, and the first pillar of that statement was sleep. It's Most people don't realize to be in shape, all you got to do is sleep, eat to your calories, and exercise in some form. Doesn't have to be the gym. So if someone wants to call themselves a leader, they better be able to lead in every department of their life,
Yeah.
not just professionally. That's called a professional leader. And those are the guys we make fun of, or women.
Yep.
Oh, you don't know anything about your children? Hmm. Oh,
Right.
your wife hates you? Hmm. Yeah. Good. Good job. You're doing leading from 9 to 5. Awesome.
Right.
But
Here's your
but I didn't.
certificate.
Yeah, exactly. So, going back to everything else, let's talk about sex. Okay? How's your libido? How's your performance in bed? You're
Yeah.
not sleeping. You don't have really a libido or performance in bed.
Right.
And we all know that plagues a lot of guys pretty quick, if it even happens. A huge factor is sleep. Um, and I'm not trying to be like rude. I said I was going to be a little brash, right?
You're
Yeah.
good. You're safe.
Okay.
What you're
Yeah.
pointing out though are the things that they might be seeing that they might not realize are actually attributed to sleep. So, right?
Yeah.
Or the lack
And
thereof. Hmm.
and the last thing that someone needs to be doing is taking melatonin to go to sleep. And if you want, I could teach you how to sleep, or you just read Shawn Stevenson's book. But the two things that I've said so far is to trigger people listening, because if you're overweight and or have low libido and you're not sleeping, that's the reason. Outside of that, how about decision making? You can't make a decision better or faster than I can. I don't mean you, I just mean anyone. Why? Because I'm clear. I have no drugs in my system, nothing. No alcohol, no weed, none of that, nothing hard, definitely. And I sleep 10 hours a night. Try to make a decision faster or better than me. You won't. I don't mean you, Tammy. I just mean in general. Like, if you have a business and you are not performing at an optimal level, you are going to get run over by dudes like me. I
Yeah.
don't want to hurt you, but I'll take what's mine.
Well, they're making a way for it. So,
Right. And fundamentally, being able to make a decision as a leader is part of leadership. So if you're foggy, if you're constantly drinking caffeine,
yeah.
you got problems. If you're drinking caffeine in the afternoon, you need to start sleeping. I love coffee too. I've actually been thinking about getting rid of caffeine. I've like rid my body of everything. I have 2 cups in the morning. That's it. That's all.
I remember you saying you know your threshold too of when there's certain things that you do and stop at certain times of the day because you
A
know that if you
caffeine
don't,
curfew.
it'll impact your sleep, right?
12
Yeah.
p.m.
12 p.m. There you go.
Yeah. Can
Yeah.
I add something?
Yes.
You've mentioned it twice now. Being self-aware as a leader, let alone a person, will give you the advantage over everybody.
Mhm.
I personally constantly am studying myself,
Mhm.
constantly for years. Thoughts, decisions, mistakes, actions,
Yep.
body language,
Mhm.
everything. And I have learned what not to do and what to do. And a lot of people could see it as a negative thing.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine. However, I wouldn't want to be those people.
Why is that, Chris?
Because normality and mundane average mediocrity is no longer on my path.
There you go.
And I believe that understanding the person's perspective that delivers things that many people say to include me as negative or whatever they want to perceive it as, just got to understand who they are, where they are, and it's all good.
Yeah.
It's cool. Like, that's cool that you think like that. I remember when I was a kid too. I probably thought like that.
Oh, wait, you're not a kid anymore? You're 42
No, not
years old?
anymore. No, I'm
No.
getting close to 40
No,
now.
I know you, but I just mean that in general. Yeah, sometimes you want to go, wow, I got rid of that idea when I was so in high school or when I was, yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways, we hold on to stories that serve us. It's uprooting the reason that they serve us. So
certainly.
I'm curious though. I want to talk a little bit about, I know that it's important. You as a leader have prioritized sleep in your daily routine. I know that
Yes.
because you shared that with me. I want you to, I guess, tell us the benefits of prioritizing sleep. Like when I and
Yeah.
for the listener, it's like,
Sure.
you've prioritized and to the point
Yes.
where you've set other things aside so that nothing interrupts and gets in the way of your sleep, whether it's dinner out with friends or not. If it's going to impact that you getting that amount of sleep, then the answer is no to dinner. Love you,
Mhm.
friends. Understand this is what I need. Talk to
Mhm.
me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we go back to, well, hold on a second. I don't consider myself a sleep expert, by the way.
I know
Uh,
you don't, but I think
you
you've
know,
you've you've applied it to heal your body, and I
yeah,
think that's the important piece because it's up-leveled
yeah,
you as a leader in that healing
yeah,
process, and the importance of that is what I think is important to share.
yeah. And thank you for saying that. Tammy, I think it really goes back to being a child, right? Like, for instance, my niece and nephew were here yesterday for my birthday. My niece is like 1. She's like starting to walk, and like
Yay,
just
so
handing
cute.
you everything, and she has a bedtime. My godson, who's turning 4, has a bedtime. Okay, what's happening? They're little humans. They're growing rapidly.
Yep.
Like, kids. You look at them a
Yeah,
week later, you're like, whoa, what happened?
yeah, especially at
They're
that age.
growing.
Yeah. Mhm.
You're developing. Their growth plates are developing. Everything is
Yeah.
developing. When do we lose our bedtimes
Mm.
as teens, as adults? Why do we stop going to bed at the same time every night? Why? Because of other things? Because of laziness? Because of other priorities?
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah.
Well, who knows? It can be
All of
different
the
for
above.
everybody. However, fundamentally speaking, the biggest thing that you could do to implement a good sleep schedule is go to bed at the same time every night. It's like, oh, I'm not 3 years old. I'm 38, but I'm in bed at 9.
Right.
Last night, I was asleep by 8. What time did I fall asleep last night? 8? 8:30? 7:30? 7? 7:30. Yeah. On my birthday. Guess what time I woke up this morning? 5.
6, 5. Okay.
You know, 7 o'clock's not my bedtime. 8:39 is, but it was my birthday. I was tired. I just had a big bowl of shrimp scampi, you know, some brownies. And the thing is, if you study how to sleep, you're going to find the same things from everybody. You have to set a bedtime and you have to set the same time to wake up.
Yeah. Yep.
So you have to have a schedule, is what it comes down to. Just like we have our day-to-day business schedules and our life schedules. This is today. You have to have a sleep schedule.
Right.
And it's like, I was on the phone because I went to the doctor yet. I'm just kind of rolling into something. I don't take calls before 12 p.m. Eastern
I know.
Standard
I've
Time.
tried to have calls with you before 12 p.m. Eastern
Yeah,
time.
doesn't happen. Doesn't matter who
Doesn't
it is.
happen. Nope.
Doesn't matter. The
Not even
president was
me.
like, Chris, I want to talk to you. I'd be like, not before 12, bro.
Right.
Straight up. Because unfortunately, I have to do what I have to do to make sure everybody else around me is good. Once everybody around me is good, then I move into everybody else. First
Yep.
person is me, then my teams, then everybody else. Everybody else is from 12 o'clock p.m. until I decide I'm done, which is last night, 7:30. So, but what I'm getting at is this. If you have a schedule, even if you're not a structured person, you're going to sleep.
Right.
That's just what it comes down to. Am I answering the question?
You are. You are. I mean, I think that it's really around for you. What I'm curious about is that for you set schedule, and we all hear that, right? Like I've heard about having a set. I heard that I had a college professor that told me that it came up in class one time, long time ago, about sleep, same time to bed, same time to awake. Well, that was really, I've always over the years I set my same wake up time. Like I don't need to wake up also by an alarm clock because I'm so consistent with my wake up
Right.
time. I know what it is. Now when I travel from the East Coast to the West Coast of the country, that messes me up and that gets me out of my cadence. But that also means I still get the same amount of time. I just go to bed that much earlier. So but it still can get wonky. So I know that that's important. And I think for leaders that to understand that the value of that routine, and I don't know if you feel how you feel about this, but to me, the value of that routine also gives me that place where I get to turn off my brain and I understand that I'm not processing things from this time to this time so that I can actually get that sleep. Because when my sleep gets disturbed is when my brain gets activated because I didn't do my routine correctly before I went to bed and I'm off my schedule and that activates my brain. And for me anyways, and then I'll have disrupted sleep. But I know when I've got that consistency, it gives my brain permission to turn off so I can sleep. That's how I see it. So I don't know if that's
Yeah.
the same for you. Are you really great at turning off your brain, shutting down? I know you've like removed all technology from your room and all those things that could be disruptors as well. Also very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bedrooms for two things:
Yeah,
sleep and sex.
that's
That's
it.
it. No food, no TVs. It's just, that's what it comes down to. You have to create an environment
Yeah.
to sleep.
Right.
And having any other disruptions in your bedroom, to include blue lights being emitted from screens, food in the bed, I just think that's disgusting.
Yeah.
But I
Gross.
couldn't do it. I'm just like, that's no. But I also, like, the dog also sleeps on the bed, so
I
it
was just
depends
going to
on,
say,
like,
wait a second, you
yeah,
got your dog
yeah, it
too. So,
depends on it depends on who is looking at it. But to me, food is just whatever.
yeah.
But the point is the environment.
Right.
And you know, I think what you're saying is absolutely true, in the sense that you have to create environments, and you have to uh, compartmentalize what you're doing when you're doing.
Right.
So, you know, I'm sorry, did I
Keep
overtalk?
going. Nope. You're
No,
good.
I mean, when it comes to me as a leader, I'm done leading when I decide, which is when I'm tapped out,
Right.
7 p.m. usually, and my brain is no longer solving problems. It's
Yeah.
not helping people. It's nothing. It's just relaxing
Yeah. And that's so
before bed.
important. You,
Yeah.
but what I love in that is that you've given yourself permission. And I think for leaders
Yep.
that push it and they burn the candle at both ends. And I see leaders that say, there's this one person on LinkedIn specifically that talks about only getting 4 hours of sleep a night and why that's the best for his. And I'm just like, oh, yes, he's physically fit. Yes, there's a lot, but I bet there's a lot behind the curtain on that one that's
Yeah.
impacting, because I don't believe that a body, what I know is that, and with as much brain power as we're using as leaders who are high
Yep.
performing leaders. And for me, just like you, having clients where I go from one group to the next, and I'm the container
Yep.
of information to help navigate through conflicts and challenges for all these different clients, I've got to be on my game. I got to
Yep.
be ready to go and ready
Yeah.
to pull from, so that I can be of best service. And I can't do that on 4 hours of sleep.
No.
And it's certainly, I think it's a great bragging tool um, that gets attention. It concerns me when I see the people that are like, thumbs up, and that's great, and I want to be just like you. And I'm like, oh man, you don't know what you're doing to your body, because how are you going to be productive if you have an unhealthy sleep habit? How are you going to be able to manage, even to your point, when those challenges come, and you've got to be on your game to make those quick decisions, whether in challenge or not, but being decisive. If your brain isn't firing on all cylinders because your healthy habits that include sleep aren't fully in place, you're not going to hit.
When social
Preaching.
media first started coming around, I was in the fitness industry. Um, and there was a saying that a lot of us said after a few years, the ones that knew, like the OGs, you know what I mean? We would say, just because you look like you're in shape doesn't mean you can teach someone to be in shape.
Mm,
And regardless of this guy on LinkedIn knowing it or not, he's statistically going to live less longevity, and be sicker.
yeah.
The real question is, if you're sleeping 4 hours a night, how long are you going to be able to sustain that? My body was only able to do it for about a decade in business before it started collapsing. And the long term is really what needs to be focused upon. So just because someone looks a certain way doesn't mean that it's good, or that they can teach it.
Right. Right.
In the age of social media, most things aren't real.
Yeah.
It's very far and few between you find people that put vulnerable things out and show their mistakes and talk about problems, and also talk about great things that they've done,
Sure.
which I believe is one reason why my personal brand is so strong on other
Yeah.
platforms.
Yeah.
But regardless of me and my brand, uh, as a leader, you will accomplish more throughout your life with sleep.
Agreed. Agreed. And you brought up just so many different uh, thoughts that are for me in our conversation, and just as you've been sharing, I'm curious. So the consistency pattern, obviously getting ready for sleep, all of those pieces, gosh, they can look online. Leaders can go and look online. I love that you gave indicators of what to be looking for in your personal life that might be out of off track to help you go,
Yeah.
but check in with your sleep. How is your sleep? Because there are
Yeah.
people that think, oh, I'm in bed at 9 o'clock and I don't get out of bed till 5, but did you sleep?
Sure.
You know, were you actually sleeping during that time?
Yeah.
And because the reality is it shows up in their performance in other ways. And I love that you brought that to it. But I'm curious from your perspective, um, what would be the top 3 things that someone could do listening in going, okay, yeah, I'm probably not getting good sleep. How do they get there? Like
Mm.
what was your way to kind of turn that corner? And maybe you can give them 3 to 5 ideas of how to turn that corner to actually get to that pattern of getting to sleep.
Yeah. Number one, make a promise to yourself and keep it.
It's
Something that
good.
seems to be pretty non-existent these days with people. I mean, if you want something bad enough, you're going to do it, right? You got to make a promise to yourself. So it goes a lot deeper than sleep. Like, do you trust yourself? I
Yeah.
trust me. I make promises to me all the time. And if I don't keep them,
Yeah.
I learn what I did wrong to keep them.
Yeah.
Make a promise to yourself, number one. Number two, set a bedtime. It's that simple. Number three, set an awake time. Okay, so those are low hanging fruit.
Easy
A
peasy.
little bit more complicated things would be I would recommend to stop all screen viewing, phones, TVs, laptops, tablets, everything, 60 minutes before bed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you struggle to sleep. Outside of that, especially as a leader, give yourself a curfew.
Mm.
I stop leading or answering or helping or however you want to phrase it at a certain time. My time's about 7 o'clock.
Well, yeah,
And
because you have to be to bed by 7:30 on your birthday.
yeah, right. So, but here's the thing. There are a couple people that I will take calls from in my life after 7 o'clock, and they've stopped calling because they know I can't articulate sentences. As weird as that sounds, I can't put together sentences. I'm done. It's over. You had me from 7 to 7. If you can't figure it out from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., well, you're going to have to wait.
Wait,
You
because I won't
know
be
what I
able to
mean?
help anyways because I can't articulate.
Yeah, you got me for 12 hours while I'm awake 7 days a week. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's good.
I had a guy, one of those, I told you I had 2 problem clients today. I
Yeah.
had a guy text me at 8 o'clock last night and then retext me at 8 o'clock in the morning because I didn't answer him. Guess what,
Ooh,
dude? I'm not on your schedule, bro.
that's that's
You're on
that's
mine.
that's a terminable offense in my world. Like maybe not 8 to 8, but like, come on, really. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I get it. This is 2023. We're all used to responding quickly or
Mm.
would like to be responded to quickly. However, double texting
Right.
8 o'clock at night to
Yep.
8 o'clock in the morning because I didn't respond to you. Let's not talk about the fact that yesterday was my birthday and I had about 300 text messages, let alone 300 fucking DMs between Instagram and Facebook. Oh, sorry, I didn't catch up to you because I wasn't on your selfish time frame.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I hear that. Well, I there's I will tell you, I think these little devices that we
Yes.
carry around are making us less efficient, are making us less accessible, all in the vein of I'm going to be more accessible, and they're making us less productive
Yes.
because we're misusing they've consumed us and we're misusing them. But that's a whole nother story for a whole nother
Yep.
time. And they certainly get in the way of sleep patterns. So
But that's
so
number 4.
yeah,
No screens, including this one, which is the
right.
pesky one.
And you don't even have it in the room. Like, get it out of the room. Don't even have it in the room. That's the one thing I've been telling my husband. I'm like, we need to get it out of the room. We have a reason for it being in the room, and I do understand that with
Mm-hmm.
different security pieces that we have in our house.
Sure.
That said, it's there we definitely have rules around it. So developing healthy sleep habits really begins with developing healthy and boundaries around the way you get ready to go to sleep. Bottom line.
Healthy psychology. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Imagine
So
that.
challenges that leaders are going to face when they don't get a night's sleep consistently, a full night's sleep consistently, is, other than brain fog and all the things. Again, all these things are out there. And I know that, you're right, the weight gain and the brain fog and the, short attention span, but also short, snappy, like I'm going to be short
Hmm.
tempered with people.
Hmm.
I know for me
Hmm.
when I'm running on fumes, there's for sure, and I think I have a
Same.
pretty darn good sleep pattern.
Hmm.
But I definitely know when there's things, and I mean, we all do, we have them. But I think for leaders, what's important is, how are you treating the dog when you get home? Why do I say that? You're wanting to walk in the door and you're frustrated and you want to kick the dog to get out of your way because you're tripped over it when you came in the house. Let's back up and check into, I know this might be an extreme example, but let's back up and get into what's in your way with your thinking, with your sleep, with your health that could be impacting that. It's not always just work. It's not always the stress of the environment that you're in at work or the people or the business that you chose to open and run. It actually might have more to do with what I hear you saying is really just that self-care of good sleep, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Could be.
Yeah. Like, how could you like want to kick the dog? You know what I mean? Like, what's better than coming home to a dog? Like,
I
like
know
it
that,
doesn't get
right?
any better than that.
Probably not a
So,
good example, Tam, but you get the
yeah.
point.
No, no, great example. Like, great example. Completely agree. It's a great example. But when it
Yeah.
comes down to it and we think about it, it's like all that dog has is us. Like,
Yeah.
why would we want to how could we be so uncontrollable to our emotions that we would push aside a dog? Like, if
Right.
we consider ourselves a leader, we should be better at understanding our emotions than wanting to push aside a dog because we're too poopy.
Totally get it. I totally get it. And and I agree with that. So when you I want to know what's next for you. I want to know what you're up to, what's next for you. Oh wait, before you answer that though, what do you think about naps during the middle of the day?
You don't need a nap if you're sleeping.
That's exactly right. There's actually studies that show they work against you, not for you.
Yep. Proper sleep is congruency of rapid eye movement cycles, REM cycles. I'm not an expert. I think it's 6 a night, like 4 to 6 is what you need, back to back to back to back to back, not in the middle of the day.
Right. And you can't reach it in the middle of the day because the
Nope.
amount of time that it takes to get into that sleep cycle. Yeah, anyways, so
90
yes,
minutes. Yeah.
they actually work against you, not for you. So,
Mm-hmm.
anyways, as we're coming down here, as we're wrapping up here, I want to know what's next for you. What do you got going on in the world? What's big and new?
Lot. Um, I mean, I guess most prominently, we're polishing up the second book.
Awesome.
We're still on that journey. Uh, I've been working with some agents, and they want me to make some changes. So, not like changes to the content, like changes to polish it for the big leagues.
For massive consumption.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I'm glad you're there
Yeah.
finally.
Well, it's probably going to be a little while, but I mean, you're an author. Like, cracking that industry is tough, and
Mhm.
I mean, I'm coming in on a heavy referral, which is always nice.
Very
Mr.
nice.
Berg. Mr. Berg hooked it
Gotta
up.
love our friend who will always be known as Bob.
Yeah. uh, but the book's been done since 2021,
Yeah.
and I was getting a little impatient. It's been 2 years, and I was thinking to myself, I'm like, oh, maybe I should just self-publish this one. My first one, like, it's selling in different countries. I mean, I get
Yeah.
orders every day. I mean,
It's great.
we're doing honestly, we're doing hundreds of books a month, which is pretty crazy to think about. It's
It's
like
exciting.
I can't even keep it on my shelf,
It's
let alone
exciting.
Amazon's always depositing money into my account from sales. Everybody loves the audio book because I did it. It's me,
Mhm.
on this microphone.
Yeah.
But I don't want to digress. The second, I thought about self-publishing the second book, and I kind of just looked myself in the mirror and I was like, hey man, um, you gonna be impatient or are you gonna see this one out? And if you recall, patience was
Yep.
one of my biggest things that I've had to work on.
Yep.
And I'm not talking about like basic patience. I'm talking about like world class patience, you know. So we'll wait. Takes another
You're
couple of
waiting it
years,
out.
takes another couple of years.
It'll take what it takes.
Yep.
It'll take what it takes. It's going to
Yeah,
be great.
You know how it is.
I do. Well, CW, thanks for coming in and sharing your journey, both personally, but also just what you're up to. I'm excited for the next book, and I just appreciate you as a person, and grateful that you are in my circle. And I knew I wanted to have a conversation with you about the value of, bless you, the value of sleep
Thank you.
and the necessity of that for leaders to be high performing. If you're wanting to be a high performing leader, you got to do what it takes to take care of you. And that includes sleep. And it's okay to tell people no. It's a powerful word. It's a complete sentence, and it's okay to say no. Right? Like turn off
Yeah.
from the world and to say,
Yeah.
no, I'm not going to go to dinner. And no, I'm not going to take your call. And no, you don't get to call me twice in 12 hours because I didn't answer the first time. Right? Like you're interrupting my schedule. As I said, no, it's a complete sentence. I learned that years ago. I'm like, oh, that's powerful. The ways that we can use it, right? No, I get to go to sleep. Thank you. So anyways, I appreciate you for this conversation today, and just excited to continue to watch what you do in the world. And thank you for being you and making the impact. And thanks for sharing your journey with us about sleep.
Vice versa. And I appreciate you. So thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for coming into the Sandbox today. My hope is that you're leaving with new tools, tips, and strategies to navigate your personal leadership, your team leadership, and your next bold conversation. And after today's conversation, I hope you're leaving with new tips and tools on how to navigate your next REM cycle so you get a healthy night's sleep consistently, friend. And hey, it would mean so much to me if you would share this episode with a friend or a colleague that you feel could truly benefit from what we shared here today. Third-party affirmations go a long way in today's world economy, and I'd be honored if you shared the value that you gain from spending time in the Sandbox today. And don't forget, head over to tammyjbond.com/podcast to get your copy of today's action plan. Now, remember, friend, leadership is not something that you're born with. It's something that you grow into. And thank you for taking the time to grow into your next level of leadership in the Sandbox today. Make it a great day.